Yeah, so the savings space is quite hot these days, whether embedded or not.
We are providing really the technology and the rules to be able to allow the end consumer to put money aside towards different goals that matter to them.
So I do think embedded savings has a role to play. It has a role to play exactly the way you guys are positioned, which is it allows people to get into a vehicle which then opens more doors for them.
So within the next 3 to 5 years, we want to empower different businesses to allow them to offer embedded savings to their customers, to allow them to set the goals that they want to achieve, to allow them to set different rules to be able to top up their wallets, put more money on the side, and we want to be the best one to do that.
I want to welcome you to the second season of Couchonomics with Arjun. Join us this season as we go beyond fintech and payments and embark on the journey into the future of financial services, a future which will be shaped by existing and new developments in technology and innovation, including and not limited to the likes of embedded finance, open banking, ESG, various versions of metaverse, decentralized finance, digital currencies, and other trends. On the couch, we're going to have the most influential and progressive-minded founders, executives, investors, regulators, innovators, and industry commentators from across the MENA region and beyond. Join us as we unravel a multitude of layers of the financial services industry and try to learn how technology will continue to impact the world that we live in. Couchonomics with Arjun is proud to collaborate with some of the most respected and innovative names in the world of payments, fintech, and technology. Arjun is a reliable end-to-end payment solution that provides innovation and flexibility to help businesses achieve their ambition faster by turning payments into a strategic growth driver. Get everything you need with 2U, a Saudi-based super app for delivery, mobility, on-demand services, and a lot more. 2U connects you to everything you need to enrich your daily lives by building an ecosystem across its end consumers, merchants, and reps. Visa is a world leader in digital payments, with a mission to connect the world through the most innovative, convenient, reliable, and secure payments network to enable individuals, businesses, and economies to thrive. GDA is a leading fintech and payment solution provider founded in Saudi Arabia, expanding rapidly across the region with established operations in UAE and Egypt. GDA's vision is to empower merchants with the tools to start, manage, and grow their business. M2P pioneers next-gen fintech through innovative offerings across payments, lending, and banking landscapes. Their comprehensive tech stack powers end-to-end banking services, BNPL, customized credit cards, prepaid cards, and more. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to Couchonomics with Arjun. I'm your host, Arjun. And today I'm keeping one of the promises I made at the beginning of the season. At the beginning of the season, one of the promises I'd made was I was going to invite some early stage startups to come join me at the couch and share with me their stories so far. So the first startup in this season, who I will be unveiling very shortly, is an embedded savings player. They go by the name Twig, and they not only have one, but they have three founders who are all going to be joining me on the couch. So we're going to be playing, I guess, musical chairs, because I don't have a couch which is big enough for all three. So over the next sort of 45 minutes to 50 minutes, we're going to be going on a journey, hearing about where Twig has come from, where they want to head next. But let me start with introducing the two, I guess, two of the three musketeers who joined me on the seat. I have Chafic, who's the founder and CEO, and Karam, who's also, I guess, a co-founder and COO of Twig. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Right. So nothing to be nervous about. This is not Shark's Tank, right? This is just a very comfortable conversation about, what is Twig and what is it that you guys are out here to solve, right? So I guess first up, right? Let's start with the basics. Um, uh, Embedded finance is kind of a hot topic, and it's even now called MFI, right? So it's jazzed up a bit. Embedded savings, right, is I guess a part of embedded finance which doesn't get talked about as often. But before we get into embedded savings, can you actually just differentiate what's the difference between normal savings and embedded savings?
Absolutely. So let me really tackle that element in different pieces. So first, what is savings? What is embedded? What is embedded savings? And how it is different from traditional savings. So I'll start with the first part, which is savings. Savings, at the core of it, it's really putting money aside for a future things that you want to do with that money. Whether it is you want to buy something, you want to retire, you want, whatever goal or aspiration you have, that's what saving is. Embedded, on the other side, is really providing those different financial products into any financial or non-financial platform to be able to provide a wider access to the customer. So bringing them together, embedded savings is really providing the tools to be able to put money on the side into different platforms. And that's really what embedded saving is. How is it different from traditional saving? It has two elements. First, the technology. To be able to provide savings and saving products elsewhere and to make it engaging. So that's the first element. And the two is really the embedded to be able to, for different platforms to provide those financial products or the tools to put money on the side.
Okay, I get it. So savings isn't a bad thing.
Yes.
Why doesn't it get as much coverage when people talk about embedded finance, right? Embedded payments has been around for a while. I guess it's the poster child. Now embedded lending has obviously caught up with it, and BNPL is one example of embedded finance. Pause financing is another one. So why don't people talk about embedded savings as much?
Great question. So, if we really look at the landscape of how things have evolved when it comes to different financial products, uh, the embedded thing has been there for a while, whether it's insurance and travel, whether it is payment and e-commerce and different online payment. So that has been there. When we go into embedded savings, it is really one of the natural evolution that puts in the groundwork for proper embedded finance and open finance. I am doing the comparative with banks. So banks, for them to provide different financial products, the first thing that they need to do is really accept deposits. And that allows them to provide different financial products such as lending. What has happened today when it comes, for example, to BNPL, basically they used not the money of customer deposits, they used basically loans from investors to be able to extend that at a premium. And if you want now to move into an embedded finance and open finance, the key core element of it is really to provide deposits that can translate into you opening up different financial products.
So I get it, but let me sort of question that. Is it just that, or is it just because it just doesn't make the banks enough money and the fintechs enough money?
It's definitely tied to the unit economics of it. Lending and payment tend to have better unit economics, but now if we look into regulators and how they will look into the full regulation of embedded finance, uh, my prediction is that the regulator will do an emphasis on for you to provide those financial tools. Either you will partner with someone who already have those deposits, or you will need to accept deposits yourself. And this is where personally I believe that embedded savings can play a role.
Okay, all right. So it begs another question, and Shafiq, let me bring you in here, right? So embedded savings has been slow in gathering traction, right? And I would argue that it's even slower in our part of the world, in the MENA region. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So where does the inspiration come to the three of you to say, let's get together and let's start try and unlock what I call latent demand, right? Because it's easy today to be the next BNPL player, right? Because there are a couple of really big ones in the region. There are a few who are followers, and they're coming around. So it's easy, right? If you can come up with a slightly good. So where does this inspiration come from?
Great question, Arjun. So when we started, we did not know anything about embedded savings. We just knew that people in the region struggled to put money on the side, and that was what we wanted to solve and resolve. But the more we got into the topic and we started to understand what the technology allows us to do, that's when we got inspired that to help people save, it's really about helping them save wherever they are in their journey and helping them micro save, put small amounts gradually over time to reach whatever ambitions or goals that they have. So this is essentially what drove us to really focus on being an embedded savings player that focuses on allowing each individual to set a goal that they want and achieve it with Twig.
So that's that's the basis of your thesis, right? Yep. So, but why is now the right time?
You'd be surprised by the amount of interest that we've seen from different businesses across the board that want to integrate our solution within their platform. We started as a B2C player where we had our mobile application, but while exhibiting in different FinTech finance summits around in this part of the world, we've seen companies walk up to us and ask us, we want this. This is part of how we can engage with our customer. We want to issue our wallet and we need people to be engaged on it. So come in, how can you provide us with your technology? So that there's really...
But Shafiq, I'm going to stop you right there, right? So that's a post-event conclusion or post-event, I guess, flavor of the world that you're sharing with me. What led you guys to launch it? Because before you had a product, how did you go about and say there's a demand, there's a need out there?
No, that's what I was telling you. We did not know about embedded saving when we started. We started as a purely B2C platform. We wanted to help people save. That's it. That was really what we wanted to do. And we evolved with time and with demand with what we were hearing. And that's how we positioned ourselves as an embedded savings player.
But you always thought that people did want something where they could save.
Correct. People always wanted to be able to save, but to get in that discipline to be able to save was not easy.
Right. Okay. Right. So product market fit then, right? So how do you go about achieving that then?
So I'll jump in here, Arjun. Okay. So basically, what we saw is first a growing demand or growing a trend when it comes to creating different wallets or different card programs in the region. So seeing that demand, we identified that this is potentially our potential target clients where we can really tap into to see all right, there's now 10, 15, 20 wallets in the market. How can we help them differentiate themselves in the market? So that was the thought process about, is it really our ideal customers? And starting engaging really with them to identify what is the issues that they're trying to identify for us to provide the best solution that would really increase the value that they would providing their customers. And a lot of those wallets really, we saw that since they are acquiring a lot of customers, they are not want to offer different saving products. They want to go to market relatively fast, and they don't know how because they haven't really studied the saving element. But since they are serving different clienteles, and a lot of those clienteles is potentially underbanked, saving is a core proposition that really matters to those clients. And embedding savings into those platforms would really allow us to get to a product market fit relatively fast.
Okay, so I'll come to the financial inclusion angle in a minute, right? So you cannot tell me you didn't have some global inspirations, right? Because you're not the first player to be offering embedded savings, right? There are some global examples. I'm not going to sort of start shooting names out, but who served to you guys uh, as as inspiration globally?
So I'll jump as well here. There's a lot of companies around the world who really did different elements to tackle savings and to tackle putting money on the side. So there is things like Roundup, goal-based savings. In terms of technology and engagement, that element has been there in the West. We haven't seen that here enough in the region. So that was one of our inspirations. The second element is goes more into the behavioral element of people. So some of the startups as well in the US or some of the studies done by things like Bank of America back in the early 2000s really tried to focus on the personal finance thesis of how people manage their money. And my personal thesis, money is a boring subject.
Okay.
Money is, it's not hard. It's relatively simple how to manage money, but it's boring for people. So how can we really make that money management more engaging, more back of the mind element? And that's really the inspiration behind Twig.
Okay. And are there any companies that you're inspired by?
There are a few.
Do you want to name any of them?
So there is Capital in the US. There
That's
is
Capital with a Q,
Capital with a Q.
right?
There is Chip and Acorn that started really the micro roundup, for example. Those were some of our biggest inspiration. Bank of America, you'd be surprised they are. And embedded saving, I would say Apple as a tech play, partnering with JP Morgan, for example. Goldman Sachs, I'm sorry, to be able to provide deposits to their clients. And that really goes into the embedded saving element.
I get it. So tell me, so what's different about this part of the world in terms of culture and people, which hasn't led to more of these micro savings, embedded savings products in the market?
Great question, Arjun. So the mentality for people in this part of the world when it comes to saving is really different. When you think about saving for different cultures, it might be gold. It might be buying some real estate. It might be just putting money under the pillow or the couch. So the mindset of the people has to follow with the technology and change to be able to enable such technologies and to be able to make embedded savings work.
So you're saying people here prefer alternative assets than traditional savings?
People are generally risk averse, but the culture of saving is not huge yet. But there's a governmental push from both the UAE, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for individuals to start saving and planning for their futures.
Okay. And where does financial inclusion, because see, it's one thing to say people prefer saving in gold and properties and real estate, but you know, the entry price is very high, or the entry levels are very high for you. So where does that whole financial inclusion angle come in, right? And how's that influenced the way you guys have gone about building your proposition?
Great question, Arjun. So today, some of the biggest use cases that can occur with the embedded savings is really with the WPS players or the remittance players, where the
and WPS, just so I'm clear, are the wage protect. It's the
rate protection system.
It's basically the payroll
Exactly.
systems or the payroll providers for people earning less than, I think, what, 5,000 dirhams a month in the
Correct.
UAE.
Correct.
Okay, sorry.
These individuals usually are underbanked, and they want to find ways to be able to either remit for their family members abroad or to put money aside to be able to buy a land back home or put money towards goals. And the ticket sizes are very small, and that's exactly why micro savings help. Micro saving is really behind how embedded savings work. Putting small amounts whenever you purchase something, whenever you buy, whenever you remit. How do you round up a small amount that gets you 1 gram, half a gram of gold, for example?
Okay.
So it builds their net worth slowly but surely for them to reach their ambitions down the line.
Okay, so that's interesting. So if I was to then ask you the most obvious question then here is a two-part question. So one is you are now focused, or I wouldn't use the word pivot because I think pivot is much more grander word than it needs to be. So your focus is more B2B, right? So you are providing, I guess, infrastructure to a number of different, as you said, wallets and financial services providers, banks or otherwise, to be able to offer embedded savings. But you're also focusing your proposition at a particular segment. Am I correct at making that statement, or am I wrong? So what's the proposition currently?
So the proposition today is, as you mentioned, is really providing two elements through an infrastructure play to different businesses who are consumer facing. So we are providing really the technology and the rules to be able to allow the end consumer to put money aside towards different goals that matter to them. The second thing that we are providing potentially at a later stage through our regulation is really the ability to offer or link those different saving tools or the financial tools with different financial products, whether it's that potential investments into assets, alternative assets, or just access to high yielding saving accounts where the consumer doesn't really have access to because the money to access relatively needs to be a bigger amount than the and this is really it plays into the financial inclusion where those consumers can't really access those products on their own.
Okay, so just hold there, right? Hold the thought. So I get that. So you'll build a whole ecosystem of complementary solutions that people who are saving their money today can sweat that money further, right?
Absolutely.
So, right? I get that point. But I'll still drag you back to my first part of the question.
Yes.
You're more focused on the B2B players,
True.
right? Is there a flavor of the B2B players? You said yes, they're the WPS players, and I think you said money remittance players.
That was an example, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Is that an example, or is that the real focus of the business right now?
The real focus is really on any provider who is providing wallets or card programs to be able to provide those embedded saving solutions too.
Okay, so let me then ask you that. So
Yes.
what you're saying is we're agnostic depending on your customer base. So your customer base can be the people earning less than 5,000 where they remit as much as 80% of what they earn, right? Or it could be people who might retain 80% of their income back in this very country, right? So because you're providing an infrastructure for people to be able to do it. But use the word solution, right? So embedded savings also deconstructs
Exactly.
into different variants. We've talked about two. One is roundups and one is goal-based savings,
Yes.
right? What are those, if I may call, micro propositions, right, which you guys have already built journeys for? And then to add to it, no, let me come back to that later. What are the micro propositions that you have built?
All right. So the different micro propositions that we've built really involves two things. First is goals. So we know that people have different goals that they want to achieve in life, whether they are on the short term, medium term, or long term. So the first element that we are providing is really the ability to put any money saved into this vessel into a certain vessel and providing the engagement to be able to convert more money going toward that vessel.
Okay.
So that's the first element that we're providing. The second element that we are providing is really rules of topping up a wallet to be able to increase the volume that goes towards that wallet. We know that the value proposition for those wallets or different card programs is to increase the spend from those programs. So as a different automatic saving or automatic top up would really add a value to those card programs by increasing the money that goes there. Here we are focusing more on engagement or behavioral things to put more money towards that card and then link it to those saving goals.
Okay. All right. So two big challenges: customer education awareness,
Yes.
regulation. Park the regulation for the 2nd. Let's talk about the first thing, right? What is it that you guys are going to be providing, right, to either your partners, right, or the end consumer, which is going to educate them, right, towards saving more frequently, and saving more?
Okay. What we're going to be offering our partners first are a set of ready-made use cases that they can integrate quite easily in their own systems. And we're going to provide them with different nudges based on the, let's face it, the business that we would be working with knows their customer best, not us. So we're going to rely on their data and them providing us with some sort of personal, how do you call it? Some sort of segmentation of their own personas for us to know what kind of goals should we trigger them to set as well.
Okay.
So we'd be providing that to help them set goals so they can start saving towards them and achieving them.
So when you use the word nudges, is that the same word for old guys like me called hacks? So saving hacks, or is that completely different?
The nudges element is really coming from behavioral science.
Okay.
And one of the books that's called Nudge, we're basically going into the psychology of what triggers an action. Whether you want to call it hacks, whether you want to call it psychology, pretty much they're the same.
Okay.
We're just trying to use a more
I'm just trying.
scientific
I'm just trying to
word.
understand because I grew up. I grew up. I say the word. I grew up a long time ago. I'm only getting older now.
You're not that old.
So nudges are in my world hacks, right? And obviously I completely agree with you that different hacks work for different sort of people. So your expectation then, I'm assuming, is that over a period of time you're going to be collecting insights. Either your partners are going to share those insights, or you'll develop the understanding of those insights yourself as you start doing bigger and bigger, larger and larger volumes, and therefore it'll get you to a place where you're able to come up with those nudges and hacks. Okay.
Absolutely.
The other side of the equation, right? What is the regulatory landscape for embedded savings as we sit today? Because for embedded finance, and specifically for BNPL, it's been a little bit sort of, I may say, unclear. I think now there is greater clarity emerging, right? So from your perspective, what has the regulatory environment looks like? How are you guys regulated? What are you regulated to do?
Great question. So we are a regulated entity by the DFSA, the Dubai Financial Service Authority, and we have a couple of endorsements that allow us to operate. The ecosystem as a whole is maturing. So as Karam mentioned a little bit earlier, we do see the regulators really pushing providing money services, for example, as an activity to allow you to hold money to be able to provide your services as well. So part of embedded finance or embedded savings will always be that piece.
Okay. All right. But what regulations do you have?
We do have it's called Category 3C.
Okay. So what does that allow you to do?
It allows us to provide money services and then arrange and advise on money services with a focus on retail clients. And
Does
that
it allow you to hold money?
It allows us to hold money. We already have a client money account and we can hold money on behalf of the users. It allows us to do so many things that are being rolled out right now as we speak.
So that way, and this is all done under the DFSA regulation.
Correct.
Correct.
What currently exists in Saudi Arabia?
I'll leave that to Karam.
There is actually one of the regulation, EMI, PMI. I'm not really sure about the different terminologies. And that's actually for us to really scale to different markets. We do see that as a potential challenge if we want to go really through a regulated route.
Okay.
And that's one of the challenges that uh, embedded finance in general will face when you are going to different countries, because different countries do have different regulations and there's no real standards about uh, how to really approach embedded finance.
Yeah,
in
because I would
general.
imagine you could just be a technology provider.
Exactly.
Right. And you don't necessarily need to hold the money. You're not necessarily directly engaging the customer, right? Because the engagement is being done by the wallet or whoever which you work with.
Yes.
And so, you know, I can understand, because I guess when you launched here originally, you wanted to be a B2C player.
Correct.
So you
Absolutely.
obviously went the whole hog,
Yeah.
right, under the DFSA to get it. But I would imagine as you go to other countries, you can position yourself as more a technology provider. And so therefore, unless and until that particular part of the world requires you to be regulated, even as a technology player,
Absolutely.
I think you should be able to actually launch faster, I assume.
Yeah, completely agreed. And that's exactly the plan. When we want to enter Saudi, it's to understand exactly what needs to happen, if there's a way for us to start as a technology company. And then it can be an add-on service where we get a regulation to provide these different financial products on top of the technology play.
Okay.
Or just partner actually with the right financial
Absolutely.
providers to be able to extend the product they already have.
Cool. So we're back to, I guess, as I said at the start, we're going to be playing some musical chairs. So Karam's left, Ryan's arrived. Ryan is also co-founder, and he is the chief business development officer.
Yeah.
Is that what you are?
CBO, CBD.
Okay, right. So you're responsible for going out and grabbing business.
More or less.
Okay, well, good. So welcome to the, I guess, the couch, or it seems to have become like the hot seat right
Yeah.
now. All right. So
Quite hot,
quite hot, right?
it is, right? That's that. You can't blame me for
No,
that,
no.
right? I'm going to carry on where Karam just left, right? We've spent the last sort of 15-20 minutes in our discussion talking a lot about what your operating model is, and I think what keeps coming up again and again is working with partners,
Yeah.
right? Or working with your clients or your customers, however you want to call it, which aren't the end consumers, but people who are your channel partners,
Correct.
right? Paint a picture for me in terms of what does an ideal partner look like for you?
So I think Karam kind of touched point on a few things. Essentially, the ideal partner is a direct-to-consumer business. So what we are currently doing is empowering those businesses with the tools to help their customer saves for whatever matters to them the most, right? And today, the ideal partner is someone who's launching a wallet or a card program. And typically, that's not straightforward. And there's a few issues that usually these wallets and card programs face. So I'll tackle a few of those issues if you'd like me, and maybe highlight how Twig kind of solves them.
Well, hold on then. So let's make it hard for you, right?
Go ahead.
Okay. 30 seconds. Pitch Twig to me. I'm a wallet provider.
Sure. So regardless of what kind of wallet provider you are, if you're a direct-to-consumer, your customer has dreams, they have goals, they have ambitions. Twig enables you to provide them with engaging goal-based saving tools so that those dreams become a reality straight from your own platform, while enabling you to continuously add more load into your wallet, and in addition to helping them spend or expand your ecosystem to help them achieve those goals.
Okay. Right. How do you make that happen?
So a lot of it was said, right? How we make that happen is through automated savings. Automated savings is quite simple, putting money on the side automatically, but automatically based on different rules. So event-based, rule-based, behavioral-based, it can get quite fun. And then we have the other spectrum, which is the goals, right? Really nudging people to set those goals, engaging them not only independently, but more jointly or in a family-like fashion, right? So there's a number of things that can be done to make that process engaging and fun, but also sticky enough for those users on our clients' platforms to stay there.
Okay. And do you differentiate between financial services organizations or non-financial services organizations who want to offer financial services?
I'll jump in if you want to, Anne.
Sure.
Honestly, we've seen interest from both sides, both financial services providers and non-financial services that want to get and start offering their wallet programs. So today, we are more so focused on the former because they're ready.
Yep.
The latter are building the infrastructure from their side, but are not ready to launch yet. But it's definitely something on top of mind, and we're finding ways to expedite them
But
operating.
then let me be devil's advocate on it. While they are ready, the financial services players, do you see longevity in their relationship? Won't they actually be looking at this and going, we could build this ourselves?
If they can build it themselves, we're happy for them.
I was actually keen to answer this question. For me, financial or non-financial, I think every business is a fintech.
Right.
I think if not today, in the next few years, if you're a business, you're accepting payments, you have a financial...
You read too many articles out of Anderson Horowitz.
I truly believe, if you're a business accepting any sort of money, then there's some sort of financial services that you're conducting.
Totally agree with you. Yeah.
So I think fintech has been largely overused as just the name of fintech. But I think, our target market, financial or non-financial, I think it's becoming relatively easier to launch your card program. Whether you have a financial capability or you don't, embedded finance is coming in to essentially allow you to empower and give you that infrastructure, right? So personally, in my eyes, there's no difference. There's a direct-to-consumer play that either you're financial or non-financial, as you stated, that people are going after. And yes, you could build it. You could, get regulated on your own, or you could partner with someone, right? So there's always that in-house or outsource type of scenario. What we've made very clear at Twig is that we're laser focused when it comes to goal-based saving. So even if you manage to build it, our unique proposition is incredibly smart to make sure that it's so impactful on your users and them being able to achieve those goals on your platform, rather than you trying to test and see how that relationship could work, right? And beyond that, it's more on how do you make it available within the next few days on your platforms directly. And that becomes the secret sauce of a lot of B2B platforms these days, is how easily can you integrate it and how quickly can you integrate it. And I think that's really what's going for us. And increasingly, that's becoming a lot smarter. And, we're seeing different things in different areas. But that's definitely really why I would not advise on building it on your own.
Okay, but it still begs the question, right? So what do you see as competition, right, for Twig today and a few years down the line?
Yeah, so the savings space is quite hot these days, whether embedded or not. I think if you drive on Sheikh Zayed Road today, you'll see a few billboards with a few percentage points on how much a bank or a investment platform who essentially is offering a money market fund. So it's definitely quite a hot topic. In terms of embedded savings, it's more global than regional. Globally, we do see a few players who are embedding goal-based saving strictly to banks. We, on the other hand, believe that the larger opportunity is really for the types of wallets and card programs that do find trouble topping up their wallets and cards. Do you want to jump in?
No, I agree.
And who do you see? So who's in the market here competing with you guys? Are there other players like Twig who are playing in this space, or are they players who are playing in slightly different space, like you said?
Yeah.
Investment apps and so on and so forth. BNPL players who basically want another way to collect money, right, for their core proposition, which is either lending or making investments. who are competing with you?
In the B2C space, I think there's so many we can name.
Yeah, no, I'm talking the B2B space.
But the B2B space, I think globally it's been more focused on different industries to enhance maybe traditional banks' platform.
Yeah.
We've taken a very different approach where it's about essentially enabling more goal-oriented saving mechanisms into other types of platforms, but also supporting a larger infrastructure for them to be able to provide that directly to their customers. Regionally, not so much.
Okay, so, but doesn't that beg a question saying that isn't a very, well, it's not, I wouldn't say attractive because I wouldn't know whether it's attractive or not, but isn't there a potential route to market leveraging the emerging banking as a service, payment as a service players? But at the same time, you obviously run the risk because, what stops them from adding a proposition, right, which is embedded savings. So I guess that's a two-part question.
Good question. In all honesty, we've been collaborating with the majority of those infrastructure players.
Okay.
A lot of them have been busy launching new cards and new wallets. And instead of us, knocking down every door of those clients, we've been actually having very good discussions with the BAS.
So you're embedding your product into their platform.
Absolutely. Okay. So we essentially want to be at the doorsteps of any client that's being empowered by any banking as a service, any card as a service, or any bank, right, that's offering a BIN sponsorship today, and enabling our products and services to, within a few days, become active on their platforms. And it actually benefits those banking as a service and cards as a service substantially, because essentially what we do, or what the impact of our platform does once it's embedded, is it increases the likelihood of people topping up those wallets, which means essentially the users need to spend through those cards, and it's a win-win for the client, for the BAS, and for us as well. So it's definitely a great train to be part of.
Okay, so we've talked about who the end consumers are and why they want you. We've talked about customers, i.e. the businesses who have a B2C play, wallets, cards, etc., etc. We've talked about technology partners or providers like banking as a service players, payment as a service players who are, I guess, either your peers or potentially your competitors. And I think the world in the future is more about cooperation, where you learn how to work with your competitors, not always against it. Can I get to know what's the business model? Like, how do you make money?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially we are... Do you want to jump in?
No, it's your question.
Yeah,
it's the hardest question. Give it to him.
Let
the business development guy answer it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so direct to consumer, we had a very complex business model.
Right.
Now it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
We're a B2B SaaS. We typically take a setup fee, and then a monthly management fee and a usage fee on their end customers, depending on the use cases. Down the line, there is a hefty roadmap on new revenue streams, whether it's just providing the technology or even the regulated financial products.
Okay.
And that's essentially what we're looking at in terms of a business model. We've been very focused on really putting the clear business values together and real, transparent business fundamentals in the past, shake up of the markets. So it's definitely something that has taken
And attractive margins?
Attractive margins. I think if I say yes, then it's an opportunity for someone else to come into the space. No?
Well, I was going to ask you.
So I'd rather say no, Arjun. They're horrible. Horrible margins, Arjun.
No, but that does beg a question, right? So are the margins both attractive? Are they moving in the right direction? And are they sustainable?
Margins are solid. I think they are sustainable. And I think the more creative we get with finding additional businesses to self-integrate themselves into our products and services, the better the business model gets as well.
Right.
Rather than looking for, independent conversation, really looking for a global solution beyond just the region and making a clear impact or a clear dent into the embedded savings opportunity.
So let me understand the word global, right? So my question is, currently you've got a one-sided business model, right? In the sense that the money that you make is out of the partners with whom you integrate.
Correct.
Right? As you start building your ecosystem, you arguably become a multi-sided business.
Correct.
So I'll give you an example. You're not going to only provide the ability for people to save, but then you can actually integrate an investment proposition along with it. Now, you have a choice to either build that investment capability yourself or go and partner with someone who provides that. And then your logic is that you will try, but you'll follow where the money flows, and where the money flows, you'll make sure that you're earning on its on the way, right? Because you're obviously unlocking business for others, right?
Exactly.
Is that, well, I guess it's obvious that is the plan, but how much of that plan is incumbent on building newer capabilities and expanding into these so-called adjacent markets, or is it about building an ecosystem of partnerships?
Okay, so it's a combination of both. It's definitely a combination of both. We are piloting here. We launched in the UAE. We are live in the UAE. And this is where we are a regulated entity that can provide financial products later on. As Karam touched upon a little bit earlier, in different countries, we might not require to get regulated, and we might partner with a bank, an investment platform, to provide these saving products. So as a technology layer, this is really our bread and butter. This is where we are focusing to make it hyper scalable to any geography. And then it's on us to make the partnerships happen to enable it or get regulated if we see the need to do so.
Okay. So how quickly are you then expanding into the bigger markets?
Good question. In terms of the core, which is the technology today, and I think it will be the technology the core later as well, we're seeing a good amount of interest in which we're signing a few clients between Egypt and Saudi. And those are
Kuwait and Lebanon, it's across different countries.
so, and that's the beauty about being a technology provider. You essentially go where your client is, and that's essentially what's been happening in the next few months, and essentially also scaling up through partners within those ecosystems, the BAS, the CAS, and the other banks potentially as well, to provide our services.
How big is the team?
Today we're a team of 12.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many markets can you tackle?
It's I mean, we can tackle today 1 or 2 markets, and then by the end of the year, that will open up the conversation with new investors, where we should double the team size to go to 2 or 3 markets.
Okay. So you use the word investor. That leads to a question, and please feel free not to answer this question because I don't know if it's information available publicly or not. Where are you in your funding life cycle?
Yeah, so we recently closed our pre-seed round.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you. Good time to close.
It's a hard time to close. So.
It's a good time to close. And we should be heading to our seed round by the end of the year.
Okay. What has been the scale of the pre-seed? Just roughly.
So in total, we've raised close to 2 million.
Okay.
Till date.
Dollars?
Yes.
Okay.
We've gotten some incredible investors on board. A lot of them who we work closely with. A lot of them investors, but also advisors who've been really pivotal when it comes to the transition that we took with the business as well. And I think, beyond the money, the sizes, it's really their time is valuable, right? So if you're getting money from them and also their time, really what's worth is beyond the 2 million that you really get.
Fair enough. And how much does that 2 million give you in terms of runway now?
We have a solid runway of about 12 months as we speak.
All right. And so I'm assuming you're getting ready.
12 months, including no revenues.
Exactly.
And we will be making revenues in the next few weeks.
And that was going to be my next question.
Yes.
Is when do you start to see revenues walking through the door?
In 4 weeks.
Oh, wow. You're that close.
Yes.
Congratulations. So how many deals have you signed?
So we signed 2 contracts so far, and we have quite a few LOIs, letters of intent signed,
Okay.
that we are actively converting to contracts.
Okay. So we're actually going to start seeing revenue walking through the door,
Yes.
right? And during this period, I guess you're waiting for the revenue to start coming out, and that's when you go into the market for your seed round.
Yeah, we're building the essentially monthly recurring revenue.
How big a seed round are you looking at?
Ideally, close to 3 to 4 million.
Okay.
And I think that with the traction that we'll have in hand, I think that's very doable at a healthy valuation.
Okay. And what kind of investors? So you said you've got some good investors, but I'm assuming
Some
they're-
incredible.
incredible investors.
No, definitely supporting investors,
Right.
Arjun.
And they are mostly angels.
We have angels.
We have a combination of angels and institutional investors.
Oh, so you
VC
do have
as well.
some VCs
Yep.
and institutional
Yeah.
investors already in the game.
Correct.
Okay, well,
Correct.
that's pretty good. In a pre-seed round.
Correct.
Okay. You're obviously better connected than I am. Who is a good investor in the next round for you guys? Or investors?
I think the ecosystem here has some really good investors that we initially spoke to on the direct-to-consumer proposition. Nothing that made them jump up and down too much, but I think there's some incredible regional investors that we are, in talks with, that have recently found out about the pivot. I think there's a lot more interest there. In terms of our seed, our next round, those will definitely fall into place. But I'm personally, and I think the guys will agree, is we're keen to bring some new external capital to the region and onboarding them into our seed round. And the only way we can do that is to show that Twig is going for a global solution rather than a more regional one, and really putting the right fundamentals in place for us to show that this is an attractive business to invest in.
So Ryan, you mentioned the word global, a few times.
Correct.
And what does that mean? Can you kind of deconstruct what global is big, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, 250 countries in the world. So what does global mean for you guys?
For sure, it means us being able to provide our services and our product to any player that is operating anywhere in the world, the way we've built our technology, either directly from us or through partners that have already been operating through the US, Europe, and the MENA region.
Or Africa, whatever, yeah.
So that's essentially what we're looking at. The region is very attractive. We think savings in the region is definitely a very big problem. But I think globally there's a very big need for such solutions. And equally, there's a lot of partners that power a lot of fintechs and the majority of fintechs, depending on the countries that we're looking into, that could take us directly and become at the disposal of those clients. And that's really what we're...
So correct me if I'm wrong here, right? I can't help. I am actually a management consultant by trade. So as I listen to you, I'm trying to construct what an ideal market looks like, right? So is an ideal market a market with a large population, a relatively low income per citizen, one where financial inclusion is critical because they are predominantly underserved, one where you are seeing rapid growth from non-FIs who want to solve for the financial inclusion issue and at the same time earn money, right? But at the same time, the consumer is digitally savvy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hit the
So
nail on the head.
then are we talking Africa? Are we talking Indonesia?
Very much so.
Yeah, yeah. We are seeing lots of interest from Egypt. And
Egypt,
other,
obviously. So I was talking all of these.
Absolutely, Arjun.
Africa.
And then
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
and then we're not, and then given we're a technology provider, it becomes we're not stuck for Web 2. It could be the Web 3 wallets that we're seeing in the likes of Africa that are picking up big time, right? So it really becomes, the use cases become very tangible regardless of what kind of platform you're offering. And that's really what we're after.
Yeah, no. So I was hoping not to have a conversation and about Web3 because pretty much every conversation these days lands up
No,
with some
we,
sort of
we don't have to
Web3.
we don't
Yeah,
have
we
to
don't.
go
no,
there.
but I do believe, right? I think the beauty in the word fintech is the word tech is not a stationary word, right? Who cares, right? As one says, it could be Web 2 based technology, which most of us are using. It could be blockchain. Who knows tomorrow, quantum computing and where we go next, right?
Yeah.
So the tech side uh, is constantly evolving. I guess the challenge for you guys is how do you stay ahead of that curve, right? Because technology allows you to be a great differentiator, but increasingly commoditizes very quickly.
Correct.
Right? So, what about your operating model? And I go back to it, is going to be different because you're taking on a number of challenges, right? So you're in a segment where the need is there, but it's predominantly latent. And when I say the word latent is people have to be educated and made aware of these products. So there's an education challenge. There is a market growth challenge. As much as Ryan, you might say that we're a B2B player and therefore we can operate at a global scale, you'll need to spend half your life, if not 90% of your life, in the back of an aircraft because every market will require you to go spend time. You can't just sit here and say, call up, Ghana and say, we're signing you up. You'll have to be in Ghana
Very
in some
true.
form or the other, because if you're going to provide technology, you have to support the technology. There are language challenges, there are regulatory challenges, which might not be directly impacting you, but be impacting your players, right? And then finally, you're saying that actually what makes you as good is what makes you excellent is your technology. So how do you guys see your business evolve in terms of your operating model? Where's the headcount going? Where are you going to have 100 people technology team? What's where are we going to go with this?
Arjun asking the great question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing's for sure is that we're not looking to develop kind of different products. We're looking at goal-based saving, being super focused on that and shipping it out while continuing to make it as smart as possible, right? And I think that is really what is going for us. Rather than building new tech teams, building new products, we believe that the use cases, just like BNPL, right? I mean, BNPL, the product, a lot more seamless, still the same product, right? And we believe that that will allow us to essentially scale without overflowing headcount and never achieving some sort of profitability, right? And I think that's very important.
No, and I totally agree. For 2 cents advice, if I could give you, is my view here is, guys, you're hyper focused on the product,
Exactly.
right? But please remain hyper focused on the countries that you've picked first, right?
For sure.
Because you want to basically become a standard,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Well, because you're a B2B player and it doesn't matter. Nobody has to know that Twig is powering wallet A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Where you want to get to is you want to power as many of those players in a particular market. And I'll tell you for two reasons. One is, it'll give you a very solid base from where you can actually then build your ecosystem, right? Secondly, some of these players actually might be multi-market.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you crack them in one market, there is a high probability that you go with it.
Absolutely.
So apologies, I'm not dampening your spirit to being a global player. I think that is commendable and it's aspirational, and you guys are young enough and you have enough of life in front of you to look and think globally. My advice, and this is not about an advisory session, is to make sure that you crack a couple of these markets and you crack them so well that the rest then just happens more organically, right?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And the fact is something that was missed in this conversation, word of mouth is very powerful. Once
It
you've
is.
integrated with a certain use case and you're doing it so well, other similar companies would want to replicate, would want this technology as well. So I absolutely agree, and we're definitely focusing right now our eggs here, Saudi, and we'll see where else we'll go
Yeah,
later.
and that's essential, right? You quote the example in BNPL, and it's a sector that we don't know what the future holds for BNPL because there's all kinds of regulation coming up, right? But let's just assume. But if you look at I always say it's not a bad thing to look at history,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
If you look at the couple of really successful, and I think there are 2 or 3 successful pause financing / BNPL players in the MENA region. I think the reason they are is that they have been ruthlessly focused on their core markets where they started, right? And they've cracked that.
Correct.
And now that's allowed them to go into adjacent markets on the back of the fact that they cracked one market with a particular client, and then that client themselves said, we need you in this market.
Yeah.
So you get a host. So again, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to take too much of my time. I'm very keen. Give me a view on the next 3 to 5 years.
So within the next 3 to 5 years, we want to empower different businesses to allow them to offer embedded savings to their customers, to allow them to set the goals that they want to achieve, to allow them to set different rules to be able to top up their wallets, put more money on the side, and we want to be the best one to do that.
Okay. But give me some numbers.
Numbers are kept for Rayan.
So I have my numbers set for the next 24 months.
Good.
And we're very focused on getting them across. So we have a few integrations going live as we speak.
Yep.
In the next 24 months, we're looking at close to 40 integrations. So 40 live businesses.
Wow.
We have the majority of them signed some sort of letter of intent or MOU. But
So there's some level of evolution.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Great.
Absolutely. And I think the more interesting part is a lot of those businesses, as you said, operate across 9 countries, 10 countries, 12 countries, right? And proving that it works here and then replicating it in their second biggest market or the third biggest market is always a great idea, right? And I think that's really what we're more focused on. From a product standpoint, savings is a high interest bearing product today. It might not be tomorrow, but we're very, very keen that if we're helping people save, not essentially their money being eaten up by inflation, right? And actually providing some sort of financial product. And today, saving interest rates are high. Tomorrow, it might be some other type of product that fits any of the goals that they've set within the partners that we are empowering. And that's really the clear vision that we're going after.
Okay. So last question. I'm an investor. I'm not, but let's assume I am one. Okay. Excite me about your sector. I know you've done a good job over the last 1 hour, but if I have to bet today in an embedded finance and embedded lending player versus an embedded savings player, why am I investing in you guys?
In us as Twig or
Or
in
the
us
sector.
as-
Let's just talk about the
as-
sector. Whichever way you want to answer. You could say us as
Sure,
Twig.
sure.
You could say...
No, it's a good question. I think, we're clearly very passionate about embedded savings. And I think when you want to compare it, as Karam previously mentioned, to the banking sector, banks started off taking people's deposits in order for them to provide other types of financial products.
Sure.
We believe that that's the same thing for embedded finance. We think embedded savings is at the heart of embedded finance and facilitating those deposits to expand into broader financial products, which is the larger opportunity of embedded finance. And, we recently saw a paper that said the opportunity by 2026 for embedded finance is at $7 trillion globally or whatnot. So good numbers there. And we believe that embedded savings will be the enabler for us to essentially open up to additional use cases where at the core there are deposits so that future embedded plans can be activated across different types of businesses. And so for investors, what I would say is today we're in a high interest bearing market it's the right time to get into a play where businesses are looking to help their customers save. And Twig is the right player, given the way we integrate with those businesses and the existing impact that we're bringing to them and their customers. And that's really how I would address that question.
I wish you both and Karam the very best. We have now met. I'm sure we will meet again and again. And keep me posted on what happens.
Sure thing, Arjun.
Thank you for having us.
Right. So thank you, everybody who joined us today. I had Karam, Chafic, and Rayan from Twig, who have, I guess, bared their souls in terms of the business. I actually liked the fact that it was refreshingly honest, and it wasn't a manicured affair where every answer was, pre-prepared. But unfortunately, that's the risk of coming on this show, because I don't give questions in advance. It's a business which I would recommend you guys have a look at. I think it's a sector that I would recommend the listeners to look at, because I do think that embedded savings hasn't been given its due. Rayan did mention that the firm that I work with just recently published a short paper on embedded savings, and I think we will do more of those in the future, because we do want to actually talk about embedded savings as a topic in this region. So with that, goodbye, and till next week.